But the question would be, why would this results be announced if the returning officer says that there was massive irregularities and there was fraud? Why would the results still be announced, or why would the results still be tenable?
No, you see, I have followed that conversation online, and I need to really check what happened. Ideally, a returning officer is the only person empowered to return the results. He's not an INEC official.
So if the returning officer says the results
that's why
should not be...
I have read what is said online. I need to check, based on that conversation, whether that result was returned, and if it was returned, by who. I can't give you the information here. I don't have it. I just read online also the press conference that the man was said to have addressed yesterday. Now we'll check, but I know that by INEC procedures, the returning officer returns results. Then, if there are issues, the commission counsels the results. And I know that there were quite a number of cancellations in the course of the returns, even when the state results was being presented.
Mr. In this case, our correspondent was there for that press conference and filed this report of Mr. Chukwu, the returning officer, Abia North Senatorial District, where he says there was massive irregularities and fraud.
That's what I'm saying. I've read that. I've read that.
That means that result, is it likely to be cancelled?
No, what I'm saying, I need to even check the status of that result. I don't, because I got wind, I read this very late last night, and I've not been in touch with but you see, if the returning officer, the appointed returning officer, says there are irregularities, those irregularities will be investigated, interrogated, and they will be ascertained whether they were valid or not. INEC does not take power away from you. Don't appoint by law. Once you take a returning officer, except the returning officer himself becomes part of the problem. Because we had that in 2011, when the returning officer went into a hotel room and wrote results on cardboard and announced from the hotel room. You remember, in Anambra State, announced the result from the hotel room. That was a very unique case where you had to overrule the returning officer because there was something terribly awkward with what he did. Yes, terribly awkward with what he did. Otherwise, the returning officer is a part of the process. I've read that conversation online, that the returning officer in the Abia North did say, addressed a press conference to say there were irregularities with the result, he couldn't return it. I need to check whether that result was returned, those results were returned, and if they were returned, by who, and if such was the case, why were those results returned? I will check on all that. I don't have the information here.
Mr. Mayo, let's leave INEC for a while and let's look at what is ahead of the president-elect. What do you think he should be focusing on now that he's gotten the mandate of the Nigerian people? What should be the first thing he'll be looking at?
Yeah, before I address that aspect, let me quickly make a point which I think Idowu has to take on, because we seem to have overlooked that aspect. That is the issue of the underage voters, particularly in the northern part of the country. You know, we have pictures of many of the states in the north where even some kids below 12 years voted. I hope INEC takes note of that, because these things, even the pictures are on Facebook.
Dr. Yao, he has said that voter card reader or nothing next week.
No,
so there's no way that those children...
No, it's properly registered. Could still vote with the card reader. As long as the card reader recognizes the card and the thumbprint, the person will still vote.
The question, therefore, should be to
how come enforcement agents acted in concert with the political parties in some of the most of these manipulations? Well, so we must take note of that.
Mr. Idowu, what are your staff trained to do in such circumstances? You see a person who's obviously 12 years old. He's carrying a voter's card and he wants to vote.
You see,
I very much love the point you made when you say what is the role of law enforcement. Now, in the election environment, the presiding officer is the president of that environment. But we also have observers. We have party agents. And if there are issues in the election environment, those party agents, those observers are there, such that if the presiding officer is not noticing it, they could draw his or her attention to that breach in the election environment to say, this is happening. And when they do that, the presiding officer has the powers to request the security agents around there to apprehend.
To remove those children.
To apprehend. Now, if none of this happened, you see, again, I have problem with generalizations. When you say you saw it many ways, me, I have seen these pictures that have gone viral. But one thing, unlike the thumb printing that you said, that they even mentioned polling unit, I found it difficult to place where exactly, what polling unit is this. All you have is anecdotes. Anecdotes don't help. It is incident reports that are of value. And what is incident report? You are in a place, you saw something happening. You say, presiding officer, this is happening. If the presiding officer, for whatever reason, is not the INEC has a situation room that runs on election day. You call the situation room to say, look, I am in this polling unit now, and I can tell you this is happening here. And let's see whether the commission will not act on it.
But the telephone number of the situation rooms were they made available to all the voters.
0700 call INEC.
Call INEC.
No.
0700
call INEC.
Can you give the full number now?
That's
The exact no.
0700 call INEC.
Some people out there may not understand call INEC.
That's when you say call INEC, the digit that stands for C, that's a 3. 1. A is 1. The digit that stands for L, the digits that stand for another L, the digits that stand for I, N, E, C. That's the thing.
Give us the whole number. This is too technical for the ordinary person.
If you have a phone, I will call
L
out the digits,
is
but
5.
the validity line is 0700.
Okay.
Line.
I'm sure our producers will work that out. We'll give out the number
So let me
before the end of the day.
get to your question. Now, I think first and foremost, Buhari must realize that this victory we are talking about is not for him as a person, it's not for APC, it's for the masses of Nigeria. And what that means is that he's not going to be a president of APC. He's not going to be a president of the North. He's not going to be a president of whatever other inclination that finds himself, but the president of Nigeria. And what that means is he must make effort to carry the entire nation along. There are too many issues on ground. Right now, people talk about what has happened in the past 4 years, how the country has been divided along the religion, along ethnicity, and what have you. Now, what Nigeria needs, because we have wasted so much time as a nation. Sometimes I just came back from Japan. I was in Sendai for the UN conference. And, what was going on in my mind is that when will Nigeria ever catch up with this level of development where everything practically are working? So what Nigeria needs is somebody that should be able to govern the entire nation and take Nigeria to where we are headed to, where we ought to be, and so that we can work as a team. This issue of religion, the issue of ethnicity and what have you, should be, pushed behind. And let us work and take Nigeria where we should be, so that we can, stand with the rest of the world and, with our shoulders high. Right now as we speak, the children that are being born today, if things continue this way, I wonder where they will be. Sometimes I look at myself, I say, well, by God's grace, I've enjoyed a few things. What about my children? So we need a leader that can, work with the entire country. We need a leader that will not be working on primordial sentiments or discriminating against anybody on the basis of religion or ethnicity or what have you. We need a leader that will make sure. Of course, Muhammad Buhari has said some of these things in his acceptance speech, that he's going to make sure that nobody is above the law. And now his campaign slogan was anti-corruption. I wonder what he's going to do about some of the corrupt people that worked for his victory. But I think he must demonstrate, the fact that he's serious, you know, because he's the one that's telling us he's going to fight corruption. I'm going to forward some information to him. The people who work with him that are heavily corrupt, you know, that work for his victory with stolen money, I want to see him prosecute those people.
I hope you know. I hope you know until proven all of these
allegations.
Allegations.
It's left for government to investigate.
Okay, Mr. Gunlano.